X-Men. 1, 2, 3. Does it really matter? Whether it be from the old canon or the new. It seems as though X-Men has been a part of our lives forever, mostly because it came out in the early 2000s, like 2000. And then it stayed with us and stuck with us ever since now. Of course, we can't really blame anyone or anything for the fact that now Fox is now merged with Disney and Disney's now taking it over. And heck, for a couple of us, for most of us, we're excited for this. We want to see X-Men working alongside the likes of Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and heck, even the Fantastic Four, who could possibly be making into this franchise. But personally, for my opinion, and of course this is a totally subjective opinion, and I'm not saying this is how a lot of people feel, and I'm not stating that this is how you should feel. If anything, I'm trying to say this is how I feel, and that is that I don't think X-Men will do well underneath the MCU banner. And I know that's going to disgruntle a lot of folks. But, I mean, come on. Most people will agree that X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, especially the second, is in regards to some of the greatest movies in the cinematic superhero genre. I mean, it's up there, especially X2 with Spider-Man 2. I would definitely put it there because I enjoy it a lot. Wolverine's badass. There's a lot of fighting. The villain is very manipulative, very evil. And I remember this because it came out when I was around this age group for the target demographic. That's right, I was a 9-year-old kid sitting in my PJs ready to open up and watch some more X-Men. I was obsessed with the second X-Men movie, literally. I bought a comic book in Tennessee, I remember this quite specifically, and it had on the front Storm, Mystique, and then that Asian chick who was really hot and died that really gruesome death. Anyways, I've read that comic book cover to cover, to the point that now, when I find it eventually, every now and then, within the stacks and stacks and stacks of books that I have crowded within my bedroom, if I pull it out, the entire cover will curl up. Because, you know why? I read it constantly, religiously. I loved it. X2 was a fantastic story. And I think this is a big problem for Marvel, a big problem for the MCU. And what is that, you might ask? A lot of people say that one of the biggest strengths of the MCU is the fact that they have an interconnected universe. One film can connect to another, other characters can connect to another. It's like comics. See, it's like comics. You're supposed to like it. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't like it at all. I rather hate it. I despise it. Okay, maybe a little too far. I don't like it. I like movies like Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, heck, even Spider-Man 3. I like movies like X-Men 1, 2, 3, yes, 3, Days of Future Past, First Class, and even Apocalypse. And why, you might ask? Because they're not part of a cinematic universe. That's one reason why I think Deadpool 1 and 2 works real well. Oh, but Deadpool 2 had that scene with the X-Men in it. Okay, yeah, it was in there for 2 seconds, and it wasn't that big of a deal. They weren't spending so much time on it, but the fact that they were all there. No, if anything, it was a tiny part. Almost insignificant, really. You could have taken that art out, and it would not have at once infected the quality of the story. So what am I trying to say? What am I trying to state? I think that the way the superhero movies are going, we need to go back to our roots. We need to go back to the way that the comic book industry was, that made it so great. What was that, you might ask? Simple. I think comic books should go back to the campiness that they once were. The Raimi movies, the Nolan films. Sure, Nolan wasn't campy, but it was good. It was a single solitary story about a character that we love. Why do we need them to be next to each other? Why do we need them to interact with each other? I want to watch a movie about Batman. I want to watch a movie about Spider-Man. Heck, let me watch one about Wonder Woman, Superman, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, The Flash, Green Lantern. Okay, I know I'm stating a lot of DC superheroes. Give me one about Iron Man. One of my favorite films in the MCU is Iron Man 1. Why? It's not connected to any type of big universe. It's not trying to connect itself to an Avengers film. If anything, it's just trying to be a good Iron Man film. And I think that's a problem that we're slowly getting into in regards to the MCU. They're trying to connect it. Look at Captain Marvel, the cinematic abortion that no one ever really wanted. It was a meh film that was kind of bland and boring and stale, and everyone agrees that the only good part was the cat. And let me say, if you're saying that the best part of your superhero MCU film flick is a cat, you might want to reconsider what you're doing with your life. And better yet, with your job in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. What should we do? What are we to do? What are we going to do? My personal opinion is that we should advocate for more superhero films. More films that will celebrate the individuality of each superhero. See their fears, see their flaws, see their strengths, see their weaknesses. That's what we want. That's what we need. Why do they do things? Why do they need to do the things that they do? Why is it that they go out into the world and become these personas and save us from our darkest demons? Why? And who are they? Who are their personalities? What are their superhero personas? And on top of that, who are they just as normal people? I want to know these things. With Captain Marvel, it should have been Miss Marvel, by the way. And if it was Miss Marvel, I want to know, what is her motivation? What are her weaknesses? What are her strengths? Who is the woman behind the mask? What is she like? What was her history? What was her past? What were her loves? What were her interests? What were her hobbies? I want to know these things, as do most people in the theater want to know as well. And a lot of people could say, go out and buy the comics, but I don't care. I don't want to read the comics if I'm going to go see a superhero film. Sure, I might be so hyped for a film like I am with Shazam that I go out and buy a comic book for it. But that doesn't mean that I should do that with every single film. I wasn't that hyped for Aquaman, and I didn't want to go buy an Aquaman comic book, and I didn't. But when I watched it, I was pretty hyped, and I was like, dang, I kind of want to go read a comic book about Aquaman now. You know, maybe I was wrong about him. I always thought of him as a B-list character, maybe even lower, like a C-list. And then now, I kind of see him as A-list. Anyways, I think that's another thing. The ability to create B characters into A characters. Iron Man was like this. Thor was like this. People had heard of them, but they weren't as big as they are now. If you say who were the main people leading the MCU, most people will automatically agree. Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor. They're the three, the trinity of the MCU. But 2 out of the 3 were total B-list characters. Totally nonchalantly sitting about in the grazing of the Marvel comic book section of a shop. No one really cared. No one really bought them. They weren't that big of a deal. No one really cared. People wanted Spider-Man. They wanted Captain America. They didn't want Iron Man. Iron Man was an old comic from the old days. Who cares about that character? We want something new. And yet, they were able to create a fantastic world with that. But I think the problem is it wasn't that Iron Man was failing. No, he just wasn't as popular. What's the difference between that and Captain Marvel? Captain Marvel is a failing comic book character. No one likes her. No one really cares for her. Her sales have completely plummeted in the burrows of hell. And on top of that, it's been relaunched 9 fucking times. Are you insane? Why would you make a movie about a failed character? That just shows the incompetence of the MCU right now. They're doing the exact opposite of the original formula, which was take a somewhat successful character that's kind of just forgotten and make them into a better, stronger character. Instead, now they're taking a character that is hated by most, rejected by many, and is regarded as a failure so many times that you relaunch the comic book 9 times, and no one really gives a flippin' flying ding-dong about it. And then, on top of that, you're not going to even reinvent her into a good, lovable character. No, you're going to keep her as the same boring, nonchalant piece of garbage that we have to see in the pages of those god-awful comic books. But instead, apply to the silver screen, played by a woman who hates white men. Or, should I say, dudes. Anyways, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about the fact that the MCU right now might be the end? This might be it. No more Marvel movies in regards to a cinematic universe. Sure, they'll still be going for a few years, you know. They'll be going for maybe another 5-6 years maybe. But you'll slowly see a decline because people only go for the Marvel Cinematic Universe because of a few things. And they consist of 3 things. 1, Captain America. 2, Iron Man. And 3, Thor. Of course, I'm not saying that this is totally true for everyone. It's a total generalization, that's obvious. But I'm pretty sure that most of us can agree that we don't want to watch the MCU without these characters. That's the reason why I went to see Spider-Man, because I saw Iron Man in it. I love Spider-Man. He's one of my favorite characters of all time, one of my favorite superheroes. But I don't like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and you can criticize me and just chastise me for that all you want. The reality of it is that I grew up on Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, a Spider-Man that has heart, a story about depression, sadness, loneliness, meekness, being torn down from the very core and limb and body of your soul, only to be built back up through the direst and most tragic of times. I mean, that's the whole point of Spider-Man 1 and 2. How can you possibly tell me that that's not a fantastic story? And yet, it seems as though with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, people just go for laughs. Oh, they do a couple cool flips and they make me laugh. Ha ha, what a great film. It was amazing, it was awesome. That's what we want. Really? Because personally, for a superhero film, I want emotion. I want drama and I want tragedy. Just like Spider-Man 1, just like Spider-Man 2, just like the Dark Knight trilogy. But it seems as though we're not really ever going to have that same type of era come back again. And hopefully we will, but most likely we won't. Anyways, tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, I hope that you all have a fantastic rest of your day.